Donald Trump is having an absolutely awful Friday morning. He got outmaneuvered by China and Canada. China and Canada, their leaders met Carney and Xi Jinping, and they agreed to a $1 trillion trade deal. I'll talk about that in a moment. While that was taking place, Donald Trump was holding this disastrous press conference moments ago where he was ranting and raving like a lunatic that if you don't support the United States invading Greenland, we are going to put massive tariffs on you. A mad wannabe king. And Donald Trump woke up to find out that his poll numbers got even worse, if that was even possible. I mean, just take a look at this report right here. CNN aggregated the data from the AP NORC poll. He's -19. The Ipsos poll, he's -17. Trump's best poll is the Quinnipiac poll, net -14 on every single issue. Donald Trump is doing absolutely horrible. Immigration, which he always claimed was his big issue, he's -11. Foreign policy, -14. On the economy, -16. On trade, -18. And on Epstein, -38. Yeah, I think covering up a child sex trafficking ring is going to do that to you. I'm surprised it's not -99.999, since covering up a sex trafficking ring is something that the entire country should be against. But there's still a small portion of this country that is in the MAGA base and is part of that cult. Just take a look at the headlines this morning. This from the Financial Times. Trump is making the world fall in love with China again. Or from Politico Europe. Why should the U.S. continue to have access to the bases of its former European allies or receive support from them, naval assets, air forces, or even intelligence services if it's trying to take over a sovereign territory in Europe and trying to screw over a NATO member like Denmark? The question is so sensitive that diplomats are at pains to keep it away from the mainstream debates between governments in the summit rooms of the EU or NATO, but it is being discussed. Let's ban the United States from all of our bases in Europe. And Europe now has to prepare to go to war, potentially with the United States. And you saw the video I made this morning. I mean, you have people like French President Emmanuel Macron saying, we need to be feared and we need to be strong. And we're going to continue to send our troops into Greenland to protect it. Take a look right here of these other headlines as Carl Quintanilla says, great job, guys. Canada, China set for historic gains from its new partnership. And Prime Minister Carney posts, it was a pleasure to meet with President Xi in Beijing. Canada and China are forging a new strategic partnership. We're leveraging our strengths, focusing on trade, energy, agriculture, seafood, and other areas where we can make massive gains for both of our peoples. And specifically, Canada has agreed to cut its 100% tariffs on Chinese electric cars to its most favored nation rate of just about 6%. And then in return, China will reduce its tariff on canola seeds. Now, Canada is going to limit the amount of EVs in that first few years to about 49,000 vehicles from China. And then the floodgates are going to open, which is going to be devastating for American car manufacturing, a big break in Canada-United States relations caused by Donald Trump's idiotic, dangerous, and malicious policy. So I want to show you the contrast, though, right? So this morning, this was Donald Trump at a press conference that he held. They call it a roundtable on rural healthcare. A roundtable on rural healthcare. And during this roundtable, Donald Trump was like, I know what I'm going to talk about when it comes to healthcare. I'm going to start talking about attacking America's former European allies and anyone else who doesn't support our invasion of Greenland. So play this clip.
Another, I called Germany. No, we will not do that. I said, no, we're going to put a 25% tariff, which is, by the way, about 7 times more than they would have to pay by raising their drug, like 7 times. This wasn't like a little bit more, 7 times more. And I may do that for Greenland, too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little, I'll take you out of that. In fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing healthcare by numbers that you haven't seen.
You know what else Donald Trump's going to talk about at a roundtable on rural health care? Because people who live in rural areas who are seeing their hospitals being shut down and who have been kicked off their Affordable Care Act plans and now wonder if they're even going to be able to make it through this year alive. You know what they're wondering about? Tariffs, yeah. And whether or not, if you go back to the 1800s and 1887, America was at its most powerful, according to Donald Trump. And what world do you believe America was at its most powerful in the 1800s or in 1887 because of tariffs? And why are you talking about this at a roundtable on rural health care? Here, play this clip.
Why did we go to an income tax system instead of a tariff system? We had the wealthiest nation. If you go back to the 1800s, 1887, we had money, so much money, we didn't know what to do with it.
But Trump says that what he does for a living is he gets people up. That's his big plan. He's going to get people up, he says. Here, play this clip.
No, there isn't. You'll never be able to get them up. The whole industry is going to be torn apart. I said, we'll get them up easily. Are you crazy? Of course we'll get them up. That's what I do for a living. I get people up.
Then Donald Trump had his national economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, who he also mentioned. He goes, I like Kevin going on TV. I'm not sure I want Kevin to leave that TV role. So many people believe that that was him saying, I don't want him to be the chairman of the Federal Reserve. And anyway, Kevin Hassett was on TV this morning, Trump's national economic advisor, and he was asked, so how do you intend to cap credit card rates at 10%, which is what Trump claims he's going to do, without legislation to cap the credit card interest rates at 10%? You need legislation. And then Kevin Hassett goes, oh, no, we don't. We're going to do the Trump cards. And when we create Trump cards, those will be capped at 10%. So everybody in America will not use credit cards. They're going to use Trump cards. I kid you not. That's what they said their policy was. Here, play this clip.
Expectation is that it won't necessarily require legislation because there'll be really great new Trump cards presented for folks that are voluntarily provided by the banks.
And of course, Donald Trump, other sycophant, Brooke Rollins, who was at this rural round table, says, she touches Donald. She's touching him. And she's like, you're so powerful. You're the greatest ever. You're the greatest president ever. I just want to let you know when history is written, we will all say, you're the affordability president. You made everything great. What Twilight Zone world are you living in? Here, play this clip.
You want?
I'm almost done. The prosperity president and what's happening. Think about you as the affordability president. Everything is coming down. Inflation is coming down. The cost of groceries is coming down. Fuel, housing, etc. And sir, today, in the last 2 weeks, you will go down in history as the greatest president for the health of this country in history.
Because contrast Brooke Rollins to what's really going on. I'll just show you this. CNN did a good job this morning aggregating the polling data. Let's play this clip.
You really have to squint hard to find even a small piece of good news for the president in this poll. A majority of the country, 58%, say President Trump's first year has been a failure. That includes 2/3 of independent voters. Now, why is that? Across the board, Americans disapprove of how the president is handling every major issue. He's at 39% on the economy, 42% on immigration. Those are two of the biggest reasons that voters say they sent him back to the White House. The economy is far and away Americans' top concern and has been for years. Right now, 2/3 of voters say the president is focused on the wrong things. And maybe even more importantly, 2/3 say they don't think he cares about people like them.
Now, contrast all of that to what has been taking place in Beijing during this historic meeting between Prime Minister Carney of Canada and Xi Jinping, the leader of China. Here's where Prime Minister Carney announces that Canada will slash its 100% tariffs on electric vehicles, give China the most favored nation rate of 6.1%. Let's play this clip right here.
China's strengths, for example, in electric vehicles, are formidable. They're undeniable. These are the most affordable and energy efficient and innovative vehicles in the world. And for Canada to build our own competitive EV sector, we need to learn from, partner with, and access and build supply chains with China. To help deliver on the full potential of these partnerships and to bring down costs for Canadians, we're going to start by allowing up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market at the most favored nation tariff rate, which is 6.1%.
And Carney was asked, what did you mean when you were with Premier Li in China, in Beijing? And you said that your new relationship with China will constitute a new world order. That's what Carney said. You've seen it in the other videos I've done. A new world order. Watch what Carney says here. Here, play this clip.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday, when you met with Premier Li, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear what we're talking about first and foremost, which is what is going to govern global trade? What is the role of the WTO going to be? How important are bilateral deals such as the one we're developing, plurilateral deals, if I can use that term, Trans-Pacific Partnership, potential linkages between Trans-Pacific Partnership and the EU. Where is financial regulation, payment system regulation going to fit into that? All of these aspects, I use fancy words like the architecture, the multilateral system that has been developing these is being eroded, to use a polite term, undercut, use another term. So the question is, what gets built in that place? How much of a patchwork is it? How much is it just on a bilateral basis? Or where do like-minded countries in certain areas? So like-minded countries, just to be clear, doesn't mean you agree on everything. Aspects, for example, on digital trade or agricultural trade, climate finance as another area, to move into areas of geostrategy, geosecurity. You will have different coalitions that are formed. So what this partnership does is in areas, for example, of clean energy, conventional energy, agriculture, as we were just talking about, and financial services, which we've talked less about, but the evolution of the global financial system, the role of the renminbi over time, the evolution of cross-border payments. I know it all sounds very dry, except for your organization, which I think takes an interest in it. These are important elements of how the system is going to work. And look, the expectation is that rather than these being developed necessarily through the IMF, WTO, and other multilateral organizations, it is going to be coalitions that develop them not for the world, but for subsectors of the world.
And then finally, you have Donald Trump saying, here's my healthcare plan. Here's my plan. Oh, finally, you're going to reveal a plan. Okay, what's your plan? Donald Trump's like, we're going to give it a name. We're not going to call it the Cost Reduction Act. We're going to call it the Great Healthcare Plan. We're going to give it a name. And by giving it a name, that's it. So you're creating a name for something. That's your plan. Here, play this clip.
How about just call it, because this is the Great Healthcare Plan. Now, a great plan has to be cost effective. Otherwise, it can't be a great plan. That's the way I looked at it. So we have a very glamorous name. It's called the Great Healthcare Plan, not the Unaffordable Care Act. I don't like that name. This is called officially the Great Healthcare Plan. That means low price and great healthcare. So you're going to have, at a lower price, great healthcare.
Let's give you this final stat right here. The latest polling data. Only 16% of EU citizens now consider the United States an ally. Even in the United Kingdom, it's down to a meager 25%. In Europe, only 16% of people find the U.S. is an ally. Just think about what's transpired over the past year. Just the data, folks. Hit subscribe, help us get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.